This is Marquivus Furious Nias, and you're listening to Deeper Than Music Radio.
Deeper than music. The core of you, the fans, the truth is deeper than music. Deeper than music. Simply the truth is the latest, the newest. It's deeper than music. Deeper than music. The core of you, the fans, the truth is deeper than music. Deeper than music. Simply the truth is the latest, the newest. It's deeper than music. Deeper than music.
What up, what up, what up? This is your man, Marquivus Furious, Deeper Than Music Radio. I'd like to say what's up to everybody in podcast land, internet radio land, on this Tuesday evening. If you're in the DFW area tomorrow, we're supposed to get a break from all this heat in the 60s. But I just want to say today we have a very special guest. I know a lot of you guys are like myself, love watching movies, love to go to the movies, love to watch movies online. And one thing that I do when I have a movie that I want to check out is I definitely check out reviews just to get an idea of what that movie is about. And today we have Deano Kinnelly of Film Reviews 2 here on Deeper Than Music Radio. How you doing today?
Not too bad, thank you. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. So, out of curiosity, whereabouts do you live? In the UK?
I live in the east of the UK, about where Nottingham is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we had a guy from Nottingham, a jazz singer, and my sister's actually in the Air Force. She's stationed in Cambridge. I was actually out there last year, out there for a little bit. So, can you give us a little story about your website and what type of reviews you do?
I do sort of any reviews I can, obviously depending on if I can get them where I am, because I don't always get every movie I want to review, so I just review what I can and what takes my interest.
Okay, and how did you get involved? Like, how did this evolve into your services? Like, how did you know that you had a love of movies so much that you would like to review them for readers or people that go to your website?
Yeah. Well, as for my love, I have a little bit of a confession to make, but my mum and dad don't know about. I was 8 years old. I watched Alien in the dark, and it was probably the worst mistake I ever made because the chestburster scene just scared me to death. It scared me so much I didn't watch it for another 20 years. And it was just kind of looking around and thinking, wow, that's really powerful. And it's a case of, well, I love this. I love movies like this. This is what I want to do.
Wow, and that was the Alien with Sigourney Weaver?
It was, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I remember that movie. Yeah, that movie was that was a pretty scary movie. So from there, how did everything evolve into the website and the services that you have now? How did that all begin?
Well, it actually begun because I actually saw a review of Iron Man 2 with Robert Downey Jr. and Don Cheadle, and I read it, and I just thought, well, yeah, fair enough, this might actually be what it is. But when I actually went to watch it, it was a case of, well, hold on a minute, this guy's talking nonsense because nobody left, which he said they would do, and it wasn't funny, but it was. So it was a case of, well, if he can do this rubbish, I can probably do a better job. And I would like to say that sometimes I actually can do a better job.
Yeah, because I know, now that you mentioned that, I know you remember Siskel and Ebert? They did. Yeah. They had a show with the movie reviews. And sometimes the one thing that kind of blew my mind is when they did a review, when one guy was, oh, I hated it, and Ebert was probably like, I like it. And then you kind of got to go, okay, well, let me go and check it out for myself. And then there's been a few times where, like when you say walk out of a movie, I remember Oprah Winfrey's movie, Beloved, when that movie came out.
Oh, yeah.
And that movie, I didn't too much care for it, but I had a curiosity to see it. And when the reviewer was like, yeah, you will walk out of this movie. And I'm like, look, if I'm paying money to go see a movie, I'm not walking out. But that movie was so bad, I walked out of the movie theater. Like, this guy is very accurate. So I guess since you are a film connoisseur, what do you think are the elements that makes a good movie? Like, what are the elements of a good movie?
Elements of a good movie. Well, it varies. I mean, for me personally, it has to be a decent cast because there's no point casting an actress who is so bad that everyone just batters the upper lip at them and like, oh God, why is she in this? Good story for a start, obviously. The relationship between the lead actor and actress, or lead actors or lead actresses. Being as I love horror, I would say if you really want to make a good horror movie, my opinion is keep it real and don't try and make it too boring. Because the amount of horror movies I watch, and it is a lot, I'll be honest, and half the time it's just like, God, why is this taking so long to get into? And, oh, God, this is full of CGI. Oh, God, this is useless. Because for me, horror has to be real because it's like real life. Because you're going to be scared if you have an inkling that it's real. But the minute you don't know it's not real, it's a case of, oh, my God, that's it, just ruined.
Okay, since you brought that up, because I just recently, a while ago, like I grew up in the 80s, and you brought up horror movies. We had, back in the 80s, we had Jason, we had Freddy Krueger, we had Michael Myers. What was your thoughts on the reboot of, because I just heard that, which I'm interested to see this, that I just read somewhere that Robert Englund is going to reprise the role of Freddy Krueger. What did you think of the 80s Freddy Krueger, and what did you think of the reboot that they made in the 2000s?
I loved the 80s Nightmare on Elm Street. It was absolutely brilliant. Obviously, many people today probably don't know that was actually the debut of one Johnny Depp.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay, so
yep.
Wow.
He's the one who gets pulled into his waterbed and blood goes everywhere.
Wow, and I thought his debut was on 21 Jump Street. Okay.
It might be, but that was the role I actually first knew him in. It's like, who's this guy? Oh, it's Johnny Depp. But yeah, I actually think back then, Freddy Krueger was, I know they originally started him out to be like a bit of a hard ass, but as time went on and the movies got quite worse, it kind of evolved into a kind of humorous villain, which I actually quite like.
Yeah, because I know I recently watched the reboot that they did in the 2000s, and it was more darker, and the guy wasn't Robert Englund, and it just, to me, it wasn't good to me, because as a kid, the humor part, the movies, like if I look at the movies now, the Nightmare on Elm Street series, like this is horrible, but he made it interesting because before he killed somebody, he would say something cynical, or, it was the humor part was, it got funny. I think, what was the one, the Dream Warriors? Like, to me, that was, it was kind of like, it was, I liked the concept, but it was kind of corny to me personally.
I have actually watched the remake of it. I've only watched it once, and I actually didn't realise how full of talent it was, and unfortunately that's what makes it even harder to actually say that it was absolutely shambolic.
No, it was it was actually good, but I guess with some movies, like I'm interested to see how this Top Gun 2 comes out, because there's some movies you can't touch. Like for me, honestly, with Top Gun, that movie, like when the movie came out, I mean, I come from a Navy family. My mom was in the Navy. At the time, my mom was stationed across the street from Fightertown, USA. That movie got me into aviation, and that movie got me into naval aviation. And one thing that I'm so scared of is that the second one it ruins the legacy of the first one, because the first one is synonymous. I don't know how many people joined the United States Navy and got into naval aviation because of that. And the F-14 will, because of that movie, the F-14 is my favorite fighter, American fighter jet. Yeah. So I guess with the Freddy Krueger piece was, Robert Englund in my mind will always be Freddy. And for somebody that didn't know or seen the 80s series, maybe, because you're right, because it was dark, the acting was good, but I already have a bias, So, and I was going to ask you, like, what your favorite genre of movie is, and you said it was horror movie, and I've always read that naturally horror movies, or like, say for example, for like, to win awards, like prestigious awards, horror movies naturally have, bad acting, or it's out of control. You know what I mean? It's not taken seriously because it's a horror film.
I think that's a fair point. I mean, when was the last time a horror movie ever won an Oscar?
Yeah.
Has a horror movie won an Oscar?
But you know what? I haven't seen that movie yet. The one where it's A Quiet Place. That might
absolutely brilliant. It just takes I don't mean to do any spoiler alerts here, but it's a case of with Nightmare on Elm Street, you can't go to sleep, and Halloween, there's a boogeyman on the loose. But with A Quiet Place, it was actually quite interesting because you just, no matter what you do, you can't make a sound whatsoever, otherwise you'll be picked off. And, oh God. I think the thing that really had me kind of like clenching my fist was, unfortunately, Emily Blunt's character was pregnant.
Oh, yeah, okay. And, with kids or giving birth, that's not a quiet. And
It's definitely not.
I heard that's one of the scenes, now that I think about it, in the movie. So let me ask you a question.
Go on, then.
What made that movie such a brilliant movie?
I think it was just that it was different, because I'm always looking for movies that kind of have that, well, I don't mean to sound a bit corny when I say this, but have that X factor. It's kind of like, it's just want something to come at me and say, right, we've been through the entire 80s, 90s and noughties genre of movies, and I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this differently, I'm going to do that differently. So just literally something that's a bit different, and something that is basically real. Because, I mean, I've already said about how I hate CGI in horror.
How do you feel about CGI movies and regular action movies? Action movies, for example. I know for me, there was a Transformer movie. I don't know if it was the second or the third one. And even with Iron Man, there was a point when Iron Man where it was just like, this is too much CGI. Even with iRobot, like for me, iRobot felt kind of. It was a good movie, but it felt dead because some of the CGI, it just took away the personal touch to me. Like,
by the way, which Transformers movie was it? Was it the third one?
It might have been the third one. There was one point where I was just like, "This is too much. It's too long. I'm CGI'd out." Like my brain is already on overload. Like I can't.
I think what was even worse was when they cast Leonard Nimoy as Sentinel Prime, and then he started using all the Star Trek quotes.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, Leonard Nimoy, brilliant actor. Unfortunately, I think he was a bit too big for that movie.
So, what are your all-time favorite movies? Just out of curiosity, like.
How many would you like? Because I've got a lot.
I guess we can. Your favorite horror movie?
God. I'd probably have. I know I'm going to get a bit of flack for when I say this, but I like a lot of Rob Zombie horror movies.
Okay, and he did like the House of a Thousand Corpses.
House of Corpses.
He did Halloween. Yeah. Okay.
I did like his Halloween. However, Halloween 2 was kind of a bit much. Like, it just so confusing. Whereas Halloween, it was just, it was a different take on it. But it was still good. It was like, Michael's here, his sister's here, da-da-da-da. Halloween 2 was kind of like a bit too... I'm trying to think of a word. Where... I'm not quite sure what the word is, but it was a bit... otherworldly, I'll say, because you've got Michael chasing his sister, and she's constantly visited by her mother, saying, "Please come back to our family." And it was a case of it just got a bit too weird.
Yeah, I haven't seen the second one, but I do know the first one was very aggressive. Like that, violence was like, I was like, wow, this is a whole nother level. Yeah, I mean, compared to the other ones. Okay,
it must have been. Yeah, it must have been. Sorry, Must have been something, because apparently John Carpenter actually gave Rob Zombie his blessing. He said, "Don't worry about my Halloween, just make the Halloween you want." Yeah. It's actually quite ironic, really, because I think John Carpenter doesn't really like Rob Zombie's Halloween double bill.
Yeah. And what about your favorite action movie?
T2.
Oh, Terminator 2?
Terminator 2.
Oh, you know what? I like that. That is a classic. I like because I know that's when morphine came out, and yeah, I will say that. Like I think after T2, that was the peak, and the other ones were kind of like, it kind of was downhill from there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know why they bothered doing Christian Bale's one. It was kind of like they said basically to Majid, "Look, just make me a crap horror movie. Sorry, just make me a worse Terminator movie and we can just reboot the series." Unfortunately, as much as I liked Terminator Genesis, it kind of didn't feel like a proper Terminator movie. But then again, that's actually a blessing, because apparently now James Cameron has got the rights back to Terminator, and there's a movie coming either next year or the year after.
So which one was the Terminator where he kind of like went back in the 80s? They kind of went back into the future, or... I know they did the CGI to make. They like redid the scene where he took the clothes and. Yeah,
it was Terminator Genesis because because T-800 went back. He was already there. Found Sarah Connor, played by the very gorgeous Emilia Clarke, and obviously Kyle Reese was there, played by Jai Courtney. And then they sort of went forward, and then Arnie obviously has stayed in LA for 30 years, and obviously now looked his age.
So, I got a question about that. In that movie, did you find any flaws with the storyline and them going back and the Terminator being old, and was it believable?
Don't think it sort of was, but I didn't really. I thought it was a bit of a gamble, but at the same time, I thought they should have just stuck to what we know, or it shouldn't have been made at all. I mean, I probably wasn't the only one who was sort of like a bit ish about it.
Yeah, because to me it was just kind of like, I don't know. I like when they stretch the imagination to do stuff like that, but then when you kind of fact check, it's like, well, I don't like. One of the coolest things I liked was and this is kind of corny, but 80s. I always liked with Back to the Future series how they went back in time, or there was the double Marty McFly, but it was real accurate how they redid it. And then even with the other day I was watching Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. And the scene where they like, "Hey Ted, don't forget this," and rewind your And then when they came back, everything was accurate. I like stuff like that. So what we're gonna do, Deano, is we're gonna go to a quick break, but we're gonna come back and we'll get back into this movie talk. All right?
Yep. Sure.
All right, and you're here listening to Furious and Deano Kinnelly of was it Movie Reviews 2?
Film Reviews 2.
Here on Deeper Than Music Radio.
In life, we all have struggles. We have that moment where we're down, where we feel like it's the end. But in this moment, that's when you gotta pick yourself up and you gotta find that inner fire, and you gotta let it burn within. Never give up, never surrender. Keep going. You can do it.
Could it all be a dream? Beaming lights, taking flight. One night, the mic device enticed me to bite. What I write, right is just a mention in black you. You could do anything, dream big. Witness this grinding, blind faith. My escape sound waves had to pave the way. Never strayed, lost focus. Bogus dreams up in steam. You clean the mess, distress when it's wrecked. Perplexed, next chapter. Fall back in the lab, making drafts of your plans. Mic in hand, competition shivering, quivering when they see no defeats in your blood. The sport won't afford conform, change, bring the pain. Standing on your feet, victories what you see. Playing there with no options of stopping, copping the crown, setting them down. The difference is no giving in. You play to win till the bloody end. When you gotta do what you gotta do, never lose your cool. Gotta show improve, gotta break on through. When you gotta do what you gotta do, never lose your cool. Gotta show improve, gotta break on through. When you gotta do what you gotta do, never lose your cool. Gotta show improve, gotta break on through. This is your moment, gotta own it. In your zone is atonement, never clone it. When it's dark and my heart's ripped apart, that spark, that fire, the flame. Together again, through the rain, energy sustained. Putting rappers to shame, your lane contains lame lyrics. Be ashamed, this game is tame. Sound the same, I reckon perfection's lesson. Question, do you write, recite, bite? Like mediocrity, simply the ABC 1, 2, 3. These plain Janes will wane. Novocaine numb, a short run. Someone pulled his plug, had enough. It's over, over, play dead. Enough said. Infrared beams to clean the team. Precise as I slice. Nice with this gift. Swift, nimble, like tight. Recite what I write. Call it a night. Light the fire, the flame. The game needs MCs like me to breathe heat. Back in this industry.
This is Furious, back from a break here. Deano with Deano Kinnelly of Movie Reviews 2 here on Deeper Than Music Radio. Film reviews.
Yep.
Okay, sorry, man. Let me write this down. I'm so sorry. It's been a long day today. So, I got another question. What movies should we look out for, or for this winter? Like movies that you think will be pretty good, or on your list to review that seem promising.
I'm assuming we're on about movies in picture, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be like independent, mainstream, just something that we should check out for, or better yet, movies that you think that you've seen that we haven't heard about yet, that are hidden gems that people should definitely check out.
Well, me personally, I've always been a fan of horror, as everyone knows. So I'd recommend, and I never thought I would actually hear myself say this, but the remake of Evil Dead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's not very often I actually hear myself say that I actually like this remake, because I detest all majority of remakes. I mean, it's like I just learned today that they're redoing Child's Play.
Oh my goodness! And Child's Play that is an '80s staple, man. Chucky and yeah.
But the worst thing is they're still doing the stuff from the original Child's Play. So it's like, why would you continue with the original one and do a reboot?
What did you think of the reboot of it?
I was surprised, actually. I was very surprised. Because it's like Tim Curry's it, and me and my sister will make no bones about how great he is in that. I was completely and utterly blown away by how good Bill Skarsgård was.
Yeah.
Because I went in with no hopes. I thought, you know what, this is going to be rubbish. I don't even know why I'm watching it. But after the first scene, I was like, wow. Absolutely wow.
I will say this for the first scene. We were actually talking about this a couple of days ago. I was not prepared for that little boy to get killed the way he did. Like that was pretty intense, for the opening scene. And I will say for the Tim Curry it for me, and we had a discussion about this. The movie for me was very good until I found out he was an alien, and then to me it just kind of fell apart. It got kind of corny and not really believable. But the reboot of it, for me, it was consistently scary. Like it was consistent. It was consistently interesting. And I think they did a really good remake, and I'm very interested to see part 2.
Yeah, part 2 that's coming next year. I must admit, I'm quite looking forward to it, but at the same time, I'm kind of dreading it, because it's like, will it be better than the first one? Will it be worse? So I'm kind of looking forward to it, but I'm kind of like biting my hand, kind of like, is it really going to be good?
Yeah.
Or is it really going to be?
So, as far as movies that you would recommend, well, actually, how would I know some people that are doing independent movies. Actually, you reviewed one of my actually a good friend of mine's. You reviewed one of his movies, Broken Doll.
Oh yeah.
How would, and we'll talk about that movie in a minute, but how do people get a hold of you, or independent major film people that would like to get their movies reviewed? How would they go about getting it reviewed from you?
I believe there's a contact page on my actual film page, but I am on Facebook as well. So if anybody wants to look me up on Facebook, just look up DK Film Reviews 2, and I will be there.
Okay.
And if you want to review it, I will happily review it.
And then, like, what is your process of reviewing a film? Because when I think of a film, like when I watch a film, for example, the movie Memento, I had to watch that movie a couple times. Like, I had to watch it a couple times. A bad movie will definitely leave a bad impression. A medium, a not so bad movie, but I must be imagine like a person like yourself that reviews a movie. I'm imagining you have a pen and paper and you're paying attention to detail. How do you review movies? Like, what is your process?
Well, my process basically is a case of I review it like any normal critic would, but I actually sit with the audience because, after all, they're the ones who's paying their hard-earned money to go and watch it. So it's a case of if their input is key. I mean, the divide between critics and the audience has actually got really, really far. I mean, the critics absolutely panned Batman and Superman and what's that other one? Batman,
Did you like the Justice League?
Yeah. It was Suicide Squad. Sorry, they panned both.
Okay.
I can't remember which one it was for a minute. Yeah, they panned both, but Warner Brothers still ended up $1.5 billion richer. So it's a case of the divide between critics and audience is really getting to the point where maybe a review should have the audience's point of view, because, like I said, they are the key. So if it has like an audience point of view and not just someone's opinion, then that is probably better.
Yeah, no, you're right, and I think I'm not really keen on the review process. So I assume that film critics watch the movie by themselves, because I think what you do is brilliant, because you want to be there, because it's like you want to see the crowd's reaction. If the crowd reacts positive to it, that's a good sign. And then, like I said with Freddy Krueger, I had an 80s bias, so I'm already, if it's not Robert Englund-ish, I'm not gonna like the movie. But then when we sit here and talk, that movie was a lot darker than Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah. I would be more scared of the remake than the Robert Englund, Freddy Krueger.
Yeah. I've actually got a bit of a story about what you just said. I watched Fast Six, and Fast Six. It was one where Dwayne Johnson recruited Dominic's crew to stop Luke Evans. And I remember the part where Luke Evans tells Brian to phone Mia, and then we find out he's kidnapped her. So obviously when Brian goes to punch Luke Evans' character, somebody in the front row, and I kid you not, he actually shouted, "Kick his ass."
Yeah. And that's a sign of a good...
Yeah, that's a sign of a good villain, and also what you don't get with, I'll say, critics who review for papers who watch it on their own. But it's just little bits like that just make the job think, oh my God, this is going to be brilliant when I write this.
Yeah, because I thought Suicide Squad was good.
I did.
I liked it. I mean, and I'm not going to lie, I went into it thinking it was going to be a horrible movie. What was the other ones that you mentioned?
Batman v Superman.
Oh, Batman versus Superman?
Yeah.
I was on the fence about it, but again, I had a bias because I'm sorry, not Matt Damon, but
Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck as Daredevil was horrible.
It was.
So, and Batman versus, and I'm a huge Superman fan. So
I'm a huge Batman fan.
Yeah,
we're going to be having our own Batman v Superman content.
So, I mean, and then the fact that they brought Doomsday in, I mean, I was kind of on the fence because I'm not really a fan of Ben Affleck as Batman, but I love I was disappointed in the fact that the first Superman, the remake, I thought it was awesome. I thought it was a good movie. And then the Batman versus Superman was and then Justice League, I was like, this is horrible. So
yeah. Well, with Batman v Superman, I think what the theatrical release was, it was kind of like, well, there's a lot missing from here, but it's like Aliens. When we first watch it theatrical, it's like, why is Sigourney Weaver so, I'll say, just like a great mother to Newt? But it's not only until the director's cut comes out is that you find out she had a daughter of her own, and that's where she got the motherly instincts from.
Oh, okay.
Same with ultimately Batman v Superman Ultimate Edition. It's like a lot of the questions that we have are actually answered.
Well, I didn't think about that. Wow.
I mean, I did like Suicide Squad, but I think they missed a great opportunity. I mean, I do like Cara Delevingne, but I think the Enchantress should have been, I'll say, held back for another movie and let Jared Leto's Joker be the main villain.
Okay.
I think if they would have done it that way, it would have been absolutely brilliant.
And then the thing that I'm confused about, they're making another Suicide Squad, but now I see that Joaquin Phoenix, they're working on a Batman with Joaquin Phoenix as Joker.
Yeah. I think, don't quote me on this, but I think Joaquin Phoenix's Joker one is set in the 80s, and I think it's like a standalone version, not connected to the DC universe.
Yeah. I
might be wrong, but I think that's what I hear.
And then I think, like, I'm confused with all the Spider-Man reboots. So, like, just like, wow, how many Spider? Because we had Tobey Maguire, and then we had somebody else, and now we got this. It's just like,
yeah. I did enjoy Tobey Maguire's, but I really, really hated Spider-Man 3 because there was just so much wrong with it. There was too many villains. There was too many stories. There was a ridiculous love triangle, and worst of all, they absolutely portrayed Venom in the light that he should not have been portrayed in. Because I did a bit of comic book research, and I know that Venom is actually Spidey's greatest nemesis, but yet they just made him out to be anything but that.
What do you think about? What are your initial thoughts about the new Venom that's coming out?
A bit nervous, because I sort of keep in line with comic books. I keep track of what I can. And I know that Venom's origin is actually his black suit, which obviously went from Spider-Man onto Eddie Brock. But I'm sort of a little bit worried, because it's like, if Spider-Man isn't there, then he's not really proper Venom.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I didn't think about that.
And I was sort of hoping it would be a rated R movie, because Deadpool sort of paved the way for more rated R stuff, but it's going to be PG-13, which kind of worries me, because I think majority of comic book fans have been praying for a rated R Venom movie.
Yeah, and you mentioned Deadpool. Like, Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 2, definitely very surprised. I'm pleasantly surprised with those movies. And then even, like, with Marvel, and then, like, I think one thing that's brilliant about Marvel, especially now, is how, where the Justice League kind of fell flat, is Marvel. I like how they execute weaving the characters together.
Yeah.
Like, now you watch a Marvel movie, you have to watch the ending. How do you feel about the next Marvel movie with everybody damn near died?
Avengers 4.
Yeah, like, how do you... I'm interested. I want to know how they're going to piece this all together and make it cohesive. Because I was not... Oh, go ahead.
I think Avengers 4 is supposed to revolve around Tony Stark time traveling, because I think that's how in the Infinity War, Doctor Strange did actually say there's only one strategy to beat Thanos.
Yeah.
I think time travel is part of that one reason, but obviously we'll have Captain Marvel back. I mean, if anyone has seen Ant-Man and the Wasp, they know that Scott Lang stuck in the quantum realm, which apparently Captain Marvel actually has access to. So that's one explanation about how he gets out of it. But I must admit, I am a little bit worried because I've heard that somebody's contract's up after Avengers 4. It might be Robert Downey Jr.'s, it might be Chris Evans's. So, unfortunately, we will more than likely lose, I'll say, one of the key players.
So that's definitely because it looks like, yeah, it doesn't look it looks, yeah, that makes perfect sense because I wasn't expecting that. I'm like, man, everybody damn near. I mean, it was a sad, but it makes you want to watch the next one. So, your thoughts on I mentioned Broken Doll. What was your thoughts on that film?
It wasn't actually a bad little movie. I know it's not exactly what majority of people would go for. They just say, "Oh, it's another really low budget movie. Everything's pants about it." But I've seen worse. I really have seen worse. I think the worst movie I've actually seen is Project X.
I haven't seen that. Project X.
You don't want to. Let's put it this way. It's the only movie I've actually walked out of a movie theatre. That's the only time I've ever walked out of a movie screen because it was that bad.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about, because we mentioned a lot of 80s remakes. How do you feel about movies now compared to movies 20 years ago? My personal opinion, we didn't have the technology that we have now. And I think a lot of people that's their crutch, the technology. I think one of the cool things that Star Wars has done tastefully, they integrated the technology, but it's still much reliance on the storyline. They use the old and integrate the new, and the old is still, new. Yeah. But what's your opinion on movies 20 years ago compared to movies now?
I think it's sort of, well, depending on how you look at it, I mean, the ones who grew up, say, in this day and age would probably say, oh, yeah, everything's brilliant here. But whereas, obviously, you and I were born in the 80s and we grew up in the 80s and 90s, we know it's a little bit different. So I think movies 20 years ago, I mean, obviously we had Scream 20 years ago, which sort of helped a dying breed of horror come out of retirement. But, I mean, we've had really good horror since Saw, 10 years ago?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Saw, yeah.
So for me, horror is actually a lot better than it used to be. Obviously, nowadays we have the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we have DC Universe, and whereas 20 years ago, Batman was nearing the scrapbook because Joel Schumacher absolutely destroyed.
Yeah, Batman Forever. When you talked about, you was talking about one movie, and I thought about Batman Forever because Batman Forever was horrible with that type of cast that you had, Arnold, Uma, and it was still horrible.
It was, yeah. I can't believe Arnold Schwarzenegger got paid at the time. I think he was paid about $20 million just to put cheesy lines into it and wear a suit that probably weighed him down even more than he actually weighed.
Wow. So
but I think, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead. You can finish what you were going to say.
I think, obviously, nowadays is more reliant on CGI, which obviously I'll say you and I are purists, I'll say, because we just like everything that's in the 80s, so it's grounded, realistic, quite simple, even though I'm probably sure that's not the word. But obviously today is heavily abundant on CGI. I mean, obviously there's the comic books, there's the comic book universes, whereas 20 years ago there wasn't really any. I mean, DC led the way. Marvel was still selling off its characters to avoid bankruptcy, which is why they've got so many of them back. I mean, they got Spider-Man back from Columbia for a few years. I mean, Disney's in the process of buying 20th Century Fox so they can get all the Fox-rated characters back, like Deadpool, X-Men, and everyone else like that.
Yeah, think about it. There hasn't been an X-Men movie out in a while.
There's one coming next year, and it actually revolves around one of my favourite storylines. Jean Grey was, I'll say, inhabited by a force called the Phoenix, and in short, it was supposed to be good, but then it got wind of emotion, and let's just say she wasn't very nice. She was almost like a psycho.
Oh wow! Oh yeah, I might have seen the preview, but yeah, that sounds like a good one because I know, yeah, we haven't heard from the X-Men, and the only reason why I think about that is with Deadpool 2, you know, they threw the X, and I'm like, wow, I haven't seen the X-Men in a while. So we have 4 minutes left. Where can people find your reviews? This is shameless promotion time. Like, where can we find you on the internet, your Facebook page, social media?
Yeah. Facebook page is DK Film Reviews 2. If you drop me a line, I will mail you back. If you want anything reviewing, I'll mail you back. Website, I believe, is of the same name. And like I said, you can contact me through there. And that's about all the promotion I can really do. Okay.
And then we talked about this earlier. What do you recommend are must-sees for your 5-star movies that we should check out?
Oh yes, I must recommend Mamma Mia 2 because my fiance would kill me if I didn't mention it. It's a very good movie. It's better than the first. It's probably the best I'll say rom-com that I've seen in a while. She also would kill me if I didn't mention Bradley Cooper's A Star Is Born with Lady Gaga in it.
Oh yeah, that looks like a good movie. That looks like a very good movie.
Yeah, Gaga's apparently expected to be up for a Best Actress Oscar.
Wow.
Not bad to say she was her career was kind of stalled.
Yeah.
For many of them, which I'm going to get into. Simple Favour with Mrs. Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively, and Anna Kendrick.
Okay.
I would recommend Captain Marvel next year simply because it kind of is going to probably answer all the questions from Infinity War leading into Avengers 4 next year.
Yeah. Like, I'm very critical of that because I'm like, how do you repair all this right now? You know,
I'm sure it will happen. I also recommend Bohemian Rhapsody, which is the Queen biopic, which as an 80 man you would probably watch yourself.
That looks like a good movie. And the uncanny resemblance, that blows my mind.
Yeah. Do you want to know what my mum said about Freddie Krueger? Not Freddie Krueger, Freddie Mercury.
Mercury, or what did she say?
She always said he was the fittest gay man. I'm not quite sure why she said it, but she absolutely loved him. I mean, when I used to go long journeys, I always remember when I was younger, I always used to remember listening to Queen's Live Aid set on a good old fashioned cassette, and it just sort of grew on me from there.
No, they were the sound of the '80s, and Wayne's World, Bohemian Rhapsody, that video, I mean, you didn't even pay it. I don't know what the hell they were talking about when they were singing. The song is long as hell, it's abstract, but I love that song. You know, who
doesn't love it?
Yeah,
I'm sure there's somebody out there who doesn't love it, but there's a lot of people who do. I mean, obviously, because it stayed at number one when it was released for 6 weeks. I think it was 6 weeks.
Then, like, the end of Revenge of the Nerds, We Are the Champions, and Another One Bites the Dust. Those are classic songs. Like, Queen made good music. So, Deano, thank you. Film reviews too.
Yep.
You gave us the information. We'll definitely have to have you on again after the winter season, so we can talk about more movies.
My
again,
calendar is always open for you.
So thank you so much for being here. And ladies and gentlemen, definitely check out his website. He gave us some movies that we definitely need to check out. As a matter of fact, we'll talk about the movies that you recommended. I'll go check them out. Thank you again for your time. You have it's nighttime there, right? Or is it the morning?
It's actually 10 to 2 in the morning.
Oh, wow. Thank you for staying up. And thank you for giving us your thoughts and reviews on great movies. And this is Mark Nias and Deano Kinnelly signing off for Deeper Than Music Radio.